This is a workshop, not a lecture, so I'm going to come down so I can walk around and among you. Because this is for you to work, this is for you to do things. In a lecture, I stand up and you just sit there, but in a workshop, I ask you to do things together. And what I've got here, first of all, is some little conversational exchanges where we have two people talking. Each line is separate. So on each line we have a little conversational exchange where one person says something and the other person gives a reply. And this is really an intonation exercise. Though you could look at it as a stress exercise, because I think if you look at these examples, you'll quickly see that they illustrate one of the points of difficulty that I talked about yesterday. Have a look at the first example. The question goes, what's the trouble? Now the answer, if I give it no intonation at all, consists of the words you, need, new, break, hands. Now can you see what the difficulty is there, perhaps, for Japanese learners? Some people might say that to me like this: you need new brake pads. Well, that's wrong. Why is that wrong? Here's how it should be. You need new brake pads. A compound noun. I hope you know what a brake pad is. On a motor car, the brakes work by pressing pads against the metal as it rotates against the wheel, and these pads wear out. They have to be replaced every few years. So this is somebody, a mechanic, explaining what the difficulty is with somebody's car where the brakes aren't working properly. You need new brake pads. Now, brake pad is a compound noun. Brake is a noun. Pad is a noun. And like the big majority of compound nouns, it has the stronger element first. So we put the stress on the first element, and we say brake pad, brake pad. Just you try it, brake pad, brake pad. And the answer is in Oxford Street. Oxford Street. Again, that's a compound noun following the regular rule where Oxford is the strong element, street is the weak element. Those are quite difficult words to say as well. Notice it isn't Oxford, it's Oxford. 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 Just say Oxford. 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 And then the word street is difficult, and it's of course not street. Street. Okay, all just one syllable, street. So the whole thing is Oxford Street. Oxford Street. Oxford Street. Where Selfridge is? In Oxford Street. In Oxford Street. In Oxford Street. Has anybody been to London and visited Oxford Street? Some of you, yes. Yes, good. Well, it's one of the main shopping streets in London. The next one reads, how can I identify it? How can I identify it? This question itself too illustrates a further important point, which is that you must remember not to accent function words. So we don't say can, we say can. How can I? How can I? How can I? And we don't say identify it, we say identified. Identified. How can I identify it? How can I identify it? How can I identify it? And the answer is to look for the registration number. Again, another compound noun, registration number. Registration number. in real life, I would say it like this. Look for the registration number. Look for the registration number. Try saying it faster. Look for the registration number. Look for the registration number. While keeping this weakening, look for the registration number. And it's very important to start associating weakening with lack of stress. So we beat look for the registration number. Look for the registration number. Look for the registration number. Get faster. The next one reads, what's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Again, remember the point about English syllables. Box, one syllable. We think of this as one thing, box. So you must get away from bokusu into box, box, box. What's in the box? What's in the box? Answer? Ballot papers. Ballot papers. Do you know what ballot papers are? Yes? Tell us what ballot papers are. Tell me, what are ballot papers? For voting. Yes, in an election, when you have to mark your vote in an election, you mark it on the ballot paper. Then you take your ballot paper and put it in the box. Ballot papers. Try saying ballot papers. Ballot papers. Ballot papers. Be careful with the final T of ballot. It's not ballot, but ballot papers. Ballot papers. Ballot papers. Ballot papers. You can assimilate it if you like. Ballot papers. Use a glottal stop. Ballot papers. All sorts of things possible. Ballot papers. Okay. Well, there are 5 little exchanges, conversational exchanges that we've practiced. I'd like you now to practice them together. If you can do it in pairs, one person with somebody else, find someone else to practice with, and just go through them. One person can take the context, the other person can give the answer. Then when you've done that, then you can swap roles and do it the other way around. All right, do it, a little bit of practice now. Off you go. What are they hoping for? And the answer is an improved payoff. Now, in the question, what are they? Notice again the weak form. We don't say what are they, but what are they? What are they? What are they? What are they? And if you're doing American English, again, you don't say what or what are they, but what are they? What are they?
What are they? What are they? What are they? What are
in English, what are they hoping for? What are they hoping for? What are they hoping for? The for at the end has to be strong. For. Even though it's not stressed, it takes its strong form. Those of you who know about these things, that's because it's stranded. Stranded prepositions are strong. That is, it is left at the end with nothing following it. When a preposition, because of a syntactic operation of movement, when a preposition is left without its following noun phrase, then it is always strong. So we don't say, what are they hoping for? We say, what are they hoping for? What are they hoping for? What are they hoping for?
What are they hoping for?
American English, what are they hoping for?
What are they hoping for? What are they hoping for?
And the answer is an improved payoff. There's another compound noun. So it's not an improved payoff. It's an improved payoff. 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 Practice payoff. 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 So these are workers who are perhaps striking or in negotiations at any rate, wanting more money. They want a better payoff, an improved payoff. Now, the next one, question is, what have you bought? What have you bought? What have you bought? Okay, notice the weak forms, not have, but what have you bought? What have you bought? What have you bought? What have you bought? And the answer, a new vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. Let's hear the falling tone on vac. That's the important thing. That's the nucleus of the intonation. Vacuum cleaner. cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. Again, a compound noun. Vacuum cleaner. A new vacuum cleaner. A new vacuum cleaner. Is it right if I say a new vacuum cleaner? No. It's got the wrong stress pattern. It should be a new vacuum cleaner. Tell me, is this right or wrong? A new vacuum cleaner. Right. A new vacuum cleaner. Wrong. A new vacuum cleaner. Wrong. A new vacuum cleaner. Wrong. A new vacuum cleaner. Right. Good, good, good. Yeah. So it's important to hear the difference as well as making it. Well, this new vacuum cleaner, how did you get it? Often when we buy things like washing machines, refrigerators, cleaners, vacuum cleaners, we give the old one in part exchange, that is, as part of the price. And this is known as trading something in. If you buy a new car, you could trade in the old car and to get something off the price. So the question here is, what did you trade in? What did you trade in? I've underlined it to remind you to put the nucleus on in. What did you trade in? And the answer is, my old washing machine. Washing machine. Washing machine. That's a machine for washing. So again, it's a compound noun. Not a washing machine, but a washing machine. Washing machine. My own washing machine. My own washing machine. My own washing machine. Next one. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Same pattern as the other ones. Weak form of are becomes what are you waiting for? But strong form at the end. Nucleus on wait. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Normal speed. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Slow and careful. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What happens in American English?
What are you
T voicing. What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Waiting for. What are you waiting for? British English, no T voicing. What are you waiting for?
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 You can do whichever you like. And the answer is the next Wimbledon train. Now this is obviously on a tube station in London. Sometimes you have to change at Earl's Court and wait for the right train. And if you want to go to Wimbledon or in the direction of Wimbledon, then you have to wait for the Wimbledon train. So if you want to go and watch the tennis, in fact you have to travel to Southfields, but it's towards Wimbledon, and so you have to wait for the Wimbledon train to take you to Southfields to see the Wimbledon tennis. Anyhow, Wimbledon train is a compound noun again, with the proper name Wimbledon, the word train, so we don't say waiting for the Wimbledon train, we say waiting for the Wimbledon train. If you said waiting for the Wimbledon train, that would imply not the Wimbledon bus, or not the Wimbledon helicopter, but the Wimbledon train. And of course, that's a bit improbable. So under normal circumstances, you must use this proper compound noun stressing. The Wimbledon train, the next Wimbledon train. Notice what happens to the word next. Listen when I say it naturally. The next Wimbledon train. The next Wimbledon train. Do you notice what has happened with next? I dropped the T from the end. Elide the T. This is what Professor Taniguchi talked about yesterday. Taking out, eliding, removing the T at the end of words like next. When the next word begins with a consonant, then we tend to omit it. And W counts as a consonant. So next Wimbledon train. Similarly, next train, next thing, next person, next time. The next Wimbledon train. The next Wimbledon train. And it's much, much better to do that than to say next Wimbledon train. Next Wimbledon sounds artificial. The next Wimbledon train. What are you waiting for? The next Wimbledon train. The next Wimbledon train. Yes, good. And the last of this next group of 5 is obviously about someone's passport. Now, be careful with the word passport. What's the Japanese for passport? Passport. Where does the "for" come in Japanese? Porto. Passporto. Where does it come in English? On the pass. Passport. Or American passport. But still on that first syllable. Passport, 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 passport. The local passport office. Local passport office. Not the local passport office, but the local passport office. Local passport office. Where was it issued? The local passport office. Again, let's do that slowly and then a bit faster. The local passport office. The local passport office. The local passport office. The local passport office. Okay, let's continue. The next 5 exchanges are slightly different because here we have the same context each time. We've got 5 possible answers in the same situation. The situation is somebody goes to a library and goes up to the librarian and says, "I'd like to borrow some books." And there are 5 different things that the librarian might answer. So the context, "I'd like to borrow some books." What do we notice here? Some has the weak form. I'd like to borrow some books. 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 I'd like to borrow some books. When some is just like the plural of the indefinite article, like to borrow a book, like to borrow some books, then it weakens in just the same way as A weakens to A, so some weakens to some. I'd like to borrow some books. I'd like to borrow some books. Well, the first possible answer, how is this going to sound? You need a new, what do we need? A library card. Library card. Again, a compound noun. Not a library card, but a library card. Library card. Library card. Library card. You need a library card. Which means a library ticket. A library card. Second possible answer, apply at the issue desk. Issue desk. Again, you see compound noun, issue desk. Not at the issue desk, but at the issue desk. Issue desk. Issue desk. Apply at the issue desk. Apply at the issue desk. Apply at the issue desk. Third possible answer, ask for an application form. Ask for an application form. Again, compound noun, not an application form, but an application form. Application form. Ask for an application form. Ask for an application form. Note again the weak form, not ask for an, but Ask for an application. Ask for an application. American English, ask for an application for. Ask for an application for. British, ask for an application for. Next possible answer, talk to the issue clerk. Again, the clerk responsible for the issuing is called the issue clerk. The issue clerk. Compound noun, the issue clerk. How's that pronounced in American English? Issue clerk. Issue clerk. The stress point is the same. It goes on ish. Issue clerk. Issue clerk. Talk to the issue clerk. Talk to the issue clerk. My English, talk to the issue clerk. Some English people say issue, and others say issue.
Issue.
And the fifth possible answer, come back during opening hours. Opening hours, the hours during which the library is open. The opening hours. The opening hours. Come back during opening hours. If you say come back during opening hours, that's nonsensical. You could only do that if it was in contrast to opening days or opening minutes, and that doesn't make sense. So it's got to be on opening hours. Come back during 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 opening hours. Okay, so when you practice this one person has got to say, I'd like to borrow some books. Then you give the first answer. The other person says again, I'd like to borrow some books. And you give the second answer. I'd like to borrow some books. Third answer. I'd like to borrow some books. Fourth answer. I'd like to borrow some books. Fifth answer. So, practice those again. Off you go, practice. The next set of sentences are a little bit difficult because some of them have a compound noun, but others don't. Others just have a regular phrase with an adjective and a noun. And you must look and see which is which. So the first sentence, I'll get some sugar lumps for you. Where are we going to put the nucleus? The fall of the intonation. Well, not on for you, because that's prepositional pronoun, which we typically don't accept. So it's got to be on the noun, but what about sugar lumps? Are we going to put it on the lumps, or are we going to put it on the sugar? We'll put it on the sugar, because it's a compound noun. Sugar lumps. Sugar lumps. Sugar lumps. So we'll say, I'll get some sugar lumps for you.
Get some sugar lumps.
Get some sugar lumps.
I'll get some sugar lumps.
Get some sugar lumps.
Sugar lumps. I'll get some sugar lumps. I'll get some sugar lumps.
Sugar lumps.
Sugar lumps. Sugar.
The next one, though, talking about furniture, talking about a cushion. The cushion's got some hard lumps in it. Hard lumps, that's not a compound, it's just a regular phrase, an adjective, noun, so hard lumps. So the second one, we need to put our intonation nucleus on the lumps. The cushion's got some hard lumps in it. Hard lumps. The cushion's got some hard lumps in it. Okay, American English, hard lumps.
Hard lumps.
Hard lumps.
Hard lumps.
The cushion's got some hard lumps in it. American English. For British English, the cushion's got some hard lumps.
Hard lumps.
The next one has got my favourite Japanese English example, the word credit card. because in Japanese, what is it? Card. Which sounds as if you've got a forward card. But in English it's credit card. Credit card. Credit card. So please insert your credit card. Please insert your credit card. Please insert your credit card. Everybody happy with that? Credit card. Credit card. Credit card. Credit card. Please insert your credit card. Please insert your credit card. Please insert your credit card for me. Please insert your credit card for me. Please insert your credit card for me. Next one. This paper's got some dirty marks on it. Is that a compound noun? No. Again, it's just an adjective noun, so dirty marks. Dirty marks. This paper's got some dirty marks in it. This paper's got some dirty marks in it. This paper's got some dirty marks in it.
This paper's got some dirty marks.
This paper's got some
dirty marks.
You say, can I have a piece of paper to write on? And I give you a piece of paper, but you reject it because it's got some dirty marks on it. You want a clean piece of paper. You notice how then I was saying, you want a clean piece of paper. Why did I put my nucleus on clean? You want a clean piece of paper. Well, this is because I'm focusing on the important thing, not dirty, but clean. I want a clean piece of paper. A piece of paper is, we already know about this from the context, it's old information. Old information gets deaccented. The nucleus goes on the new information. We focus on what's important because it's new. A clean sheet of paper. Okay, the last of the 5. Does this contain a compound noun or not? I'm finding it hard to get a product number from them. Yes, there is a compound noun here. Can you identify the compound noun? Product number. Product number, meaning the number of the product. Product number. Product number.
Product number. Product number.
So this is somebody, I don't know, wanting to order a spare part, and in order to get the spare part, they've got to have the correct number. And I'm finding difficulty, I can't discover what it should be. I'm finding it hard to get a product number from the manufacturers. I'm finding it hard to get a product number. So just let's practice that together. First of all, a product number. Product number.
I'm finding it hard to get a product number.
To get a product.
I'm finding it hard to get a product number.
Get a product.
I'm finding it hard to get a product number.
Hard to get a
I'm
product.
finding it hard to get a product number.
Hard to get a product. I'm finding it hard to get a product number. I'm finding it hard to get a product number. I'm finding it hard to get a product number from them. I'm finding it hard to get a product number from them. I'm finding it hard to get a product number from them. Alright, now you can practice those last 5 sentences. Off you go.